All right, guys. Welcome to the program. I know it's the middle of the day, and I know you have a lot of things to do. There are some of you who are still, despite your workload, have an interest in the Caribbean and what is happening in our Caribbean. Let me say good evening to you wherever you are. You can leave your name in the chat. You can say good evening, good night from whichever part of the world you are living as we continue to discuss what is happening in the Caribbean. It's a real shame and disgrace what is happening in this Caribbean of ours. And I think sometimes we as a people are to be blamed for some of it. I don't know how many people realize that the power that politicians have comes from you. I don't think a lot of people understand that because I believe if they understood such, that they would. Okay, someone is saying that there is no sound. Let me correct this as quickly as possible. Someone is saying that there is no sound coming. Um, I hope that you're hearing me now. I hope that you're hearing me now. We are actually using the same system that we've been using for all the time. So I hope that you're hearing me. We'll have to make a check on to see what's happening here. Somebody's saying that there is no sound. Guys, you can let me know if you're hearing me, because if you're not, we will have to deal with that as quickly as possible. Those of you who are listening in the chat, let me know if you're hearing me. We've been using for all the time. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So the individual who's not hearing it, you could actually reopen. You could actually close YouTube, reopen it, and you should be able to hear because someone always. Okay. So people are hearing. Okay. Good to know. Good to know. So let me continue. As I was saying, this Caribbean of ours is in real problems. And the reason why it is in so much problems is because we have allowed ourselves to be part of the problem. What do I mean? The politicians that we have in every Caribbean island get into office. Some say they get into power. And they get into power, as they say, or to office because we vote them into office. But it appears as though we forget when they are in office that we were the ones that placed them in office. We become scared. We become afraid to speak our mind. We go into solitude. We go into hiding. It's almost as if we are living on a plantation one more time. And we are afraid of what the slave master would say to us or would do to us. Because our prime ministers, our presidents in the region, our leaders have become our new slave masters. And the reason why they have become our new slave masters is because we have given them that power. What do I mean? Yes, there's a democratic process. It's called an election. And so we vote, and there are parties, and we vote for people to get into office to do good by us. To do good by us. That is basically what we vote government to do good by us. Not to do bad by us, not to talk down to us and treat us as if we are on their plantation. And so, from time to time, things happen in various Caribbean islands from time to time. And I would get information and I would put that information out. And as much as you guys appreciate the information, there's some people in this Caribbean of ours who still they have decided somehow or the other in their mind that they prefer a wish to live on a plantation. They have not removed themselves from 1834. Was that the time that we abolished slavery, 1833? You'll have to remind me. I can't remember everything. They wish to remain in that era, but we have long passed that era. And if there's an issue in every Caribbean island, if there's an issue in these islands, we have a right to go to the streets to protest. We have a right to stand up and call out politicians for what they are. And I beg Caribbean people all the time, because I've talked in different forums. I say to them, you can call out politicians without being disrespectful to them. Because there's a level of respect that goes with the office, even though many of them don't even respect the very office that they hold. But I say to you, respect the office, and you can call out these politicians while being respectful to them. You can write a letter detailing how you feel about certain things. You can hit the streets. It's your duty, it's your right to hit the streets in protest. All of the constitutions in these islands give the populations the right to protest in the streets. Not in a distasteful manner, but in a peaceful manner. And I say to people, when you have a problem, don't sit down in your home. If a group is calling you out to say, look, we have to protest a matter, don't just say yes on the screen or say yes on social media. Find yourself out there, because one of these days I will say to you, today will be me and tomorrow will be you. And I tell you something, fear stalks the land. Fear stalks the land in all of these Caribbean islands. Fear stalks the land. A book by Tom York and Stanley Dunwood. You understand what I'm saying to you? It's a document, a creative process, and a mirror to the fears. And the authors were talking about how people become so fearful because politicians instill this kind of fear into them. That you can't come out, you can't say this. If you say this, you're going against the word of God, because governments are placed there by the Most High. So you can't come out and protest because you're protesting against God. Politicians have used that, Do you know that they have used that in the Caribbean against people? Yes. It's sad to see that our people have become so dumbed down by these very people that we elect. And you know what? I tell you something. What do you expect when these leaders go and educate themselves in the citadels of colonialism? What do I mean by the citadels of colonialism? The UK, the US, Europe, the citadels of colonialism, our former slave masters. And that is where people go. That is where our politicians go to educate themselves. So what do you expect? How do you expect them to behave? How do you expect them to behave to you today? No, how? Seriously, how do you expect them to behave? When you tell people these things, they get really, really upset. But I'm going to read to you a letter. A letter that came to me, to my publication that I operate, the St. Vincent Times. I'm going to give you a letter that came to me. It was written in 1989. You want to know by whom it was written? It was written by Ralph Gonsalves, the Prime Minister of St. Vincent. In 1989, he wrote this letter. You know what the letter was entitled? The letter was sent to a newspaper in St. Vincent called the Vincentians, one of the longest running newspapers in St. Vincent. You know what the letter is called? Let me tell you what it was called. It's called Fear Stalks the Land. Here's what it says. More and more Vincentians of all walks of life are heard to be whispering under their breath that they feel gripped by fear in this land, the land of their birth. So we could say today, more and more St. Lucians, more and more Barbadians, more and more Trinidadians, more and more Dominicans, more and more Grenadians from all walks of life are to be heard whispering under their breath that they feel gripped by the fear in this land of their birth. So you in Barbados, how do you feel? You in Grenada, do you whisper under your breath? You in St. Lucia, do you whisper under your breath? Huh? Let me continue. He said, fear, that painful emotion caused by impending danger or evil, is eating away at the fighting spirit of our people, and they are cowering into submissiveness. Is that fighting spirit of yours being eaten away? Is it being taken away from you? Are you cowering into submissiveness? Are you afraid to speak? To be sure, a few persons are still courageous to have the possible consequences of resisting those who engender this fear. So the same Prime Minister today is saying in a letter in 1989 that there are still a few people who are not afraid of the possible consequences of going against this fear that is being engendered in the land. But he says significant sections of the population are terrified about speaking or acting contrary to the opinions or dictates of those in political authority. So he says there's a significant section of society that are terrified about speaking or acting contrary to the opinions or dictates of those in political authority. Do you find yourself on that side of the spectrum? Do you find yourself on that side of the spectrum? My good friend Jodian says, protest against evil by doing good. How can we protest against prophecy? Well, let me tell you something, Jodian. Let me tell you something. If you believe in the Most High, if you believe in anything he says, in the words and the scriptures that were written, he himself, when he was here on earth, went into the temple, overturned it, chased them out. You know why he did it? Those were the people of the day. You know why he did it? Because they turned the synagogue into den. They were hosting gambling and they were doing all sorts of things. So he protested. Even he himself protested. He protested against Herod himself. He protested against the Roman Empire of that day. He didn't go out and kill anybody, but he protested against them. So, yes, prophecy must be fulfilled. Government will become tyrannical. Government will become evil. But it doesn't mean that you can't speak out against the evil. It doesn't mean that you can't speak out against the evil. So, I don't accept that position while I respect what you're saying. First, it is clear. This is what Gonzalez went on to say in his letter. First, it is clear that many persons of authority in this country are attempting to use the law, its allied instruments and mechanism, not to maintain law and order by consent or by an inherent respect for the law or lawful authority. They seem bent on using the law as a hammer with which to beat people into submission. You know, people in St. Vincent have been talking about this very same thing lately. When they have protests in St. Vincent, but it's 10 or 20 people. You have 200 policemen on the street for 10 and 20 people, you know. You know what that is doing there? That is where the authority in the country is using the law and mechanisms, not to maintain law and order, no, but to instill fear into you, the people. And it has been done in other Caribbean islands too. So the very same thing that he wrote about in 1989, you're seeing it played out today. And all across the Caribbean, you're seeing this playing out. Here's what he said. They seem bent on using the law as a hammer which to beat people into submission. So they're using the law. They're using the law to beat you into submission. And that is why I always tell people, the day you elect lawyers to office is the day you will begin to see the tearing apart of democracy in any country. Any day, anytime you elect lawyers. Now, anytime you elect lawyers to government, what do lawyers do? What is their job? What is the job of a lawyer? A lawyer goes to court, a lawyer defends, and sometimes he's on the prosecution side. You hear me? A lawyer sometimes defends, sometimes he goes on the prosecution side and he prosecutes you. The lawyer knows the law. That is his job. He knows the law. When you vote a lawyer into government and you make them a prime minister or president, expect tyranny. Expect tyranny. You hear me? Anytime you vote a lawyer into government as a prime minister, expect tyranny in the land. Expect to be beaten into submission if you don't go by their whims and fancies, because they know the law and they will use the law against you, the very same people who put them into office. You all better wake up. When you choose leaders, choose them wisely. Know their background. I have never been one for anyone. I have never been a person who is in favor of lawyers getting into politics, let alone being the leader of a country. I have never been in favor of that. I have changed my position on certain things because sometimes you may need a legal hand in the government. And that is where you have an attorney general who knows the law. So let the attorney general do its job. But when you have a lawyer being a politician, and when you have a lawyer being a prime minister, expect tyranny in that land. Expect the tearing away of democratic institutions over time. Expect it to happen. Y'all don't believe me? Just look around you. Just look around you and you will see what happens. Look around you. Lawyers know the law. And they will use the law against you. Plain, straight, dirty manners. There's nothing else to say. Nothing else to say about that. They will use the law against you. Straight up. You talk, they get angry, they look for a section in the Constitution that they can spin and put you into jail. You hold a protest, they come on the TV and they say according to subsection something, and they browbeat you into not coming back on the streets to protest because they use the law against the very same people who put them into office. That is what they do. I have never been one for allowing any lawyer to become any politician. Or let's lead a country. They know the law and they know the Constitution. They don't know nothing else. And they will use that to remain in power and use it to oppress you. That is all they will do. And some of you are going to warn you. Like I always warn my black brothers and sisters. Nothing to do with race here now. You all need to wake up from your slumber and sleep. Wake up. Do not allow the people you put into office to misguide you. What do I mean? I have listened to people in the Caribbean, in different islands, defend politicians. Politicians are never friends with anyone. Don't get it twisted. Let me tell you something. Everything a politician do is transactional. What is transactional? If I do something for you today, you better do something for me tomorrow. They don't do it genuinely. And I'm telling you that for a fact, especially when a politician is a lawyer. Transactional. I do something for you today, you better do something for me tomorrow. They don't love you. Don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. You hear me? Politicians can't have genuine friendships with people because a politician by nature and the art of politics is one where you cannot be really genuine, where you cannot be really genuine. You may go in as a genuine person because you are out here among us, suffering daily, knowing the consequences of what politicians can do to people. But when you get into the system, you can't be as genuine as you used to be. Some pretend to be genuine. They smile and they give you a plastic smile and they shake your hand and all that nonsense, and they come around and they hug up everybody's child and they make you think that they're not genuine with that. That's a game. And politics have a demon that goes along with it. Just look at the way people behave when they get into politics. It has a demon that goes along with it. And when I see my brothers and sisters defending politicians out here, when I see them dividing their communities because of a politician and taking up one side over the other, that is when I realize that we have lost it as a people. When I see our brothers and sisters out here fighting against each other, yeah, you understand what I'm saying? When I see them begging out here to be friends with politicians and defending politicians, doing destruction to their own brothers and sisters, I really know we have lost it and we have not come out of that slave mentality as yet. Judean says, Yah drove them out by his power. He did not beg them to leave the temple. To say he was protesting would be that he was begging them to leave the temple. No, you got me mixed up and you got me wrong. You got me wrong. Yah was protesting. That's a form of protesting. When you drive people out, like he did, yes, he had power, and he turned over the money changers table and run them out, that's a form of protesting. He was protesting the wrongdoing that they were doing, and that's how he drove them out. So yes, he was protesting against what they were doing. He wasn't begging them. Never said he was begging them either. Yes, Jordan, we're on the same page when it comes to that part. Yes, he drove them out. That's correct. But that's a form of protesting. Just like when you go on the street and you issue your voice and you say the government is doing wrong, and then society joins in and say, yes, the government is doing wrong, and the government is pushed out of power or voted out of power because of what you did, it's not begging them. It's not begging them. You protested what they were doing wrong. You protested what they were doing wrong. Yes, in the form of a demonstration. You protested what they were doing wrong. You protest against what they're doing, and they're out. So I'm not going to go down the road with that right now. Back to the discussion. When I see my people out here against each other, picking up for politicians, defending politicians and the wrong that they are doing, I now understand that colonialism and its effects have not left us yet. And so these politicians act the same as colonial masters. What do they do? What do they do? You know what they do? They give your friend a big job. Your friend buys a big car, a big new Jeep, an SUV, the latest model. Your friend goes and build a big house on Mars Hill. Now your friends hate you. And anything you say against that politician, your friend defends, and your friends talk about you. And then you may say, wait, I had a discussion. 2 days after, you find police meet in the street, start to harass you for no reason. You're not doing anything wrong. They just harass you. And you ask yourself, what have I done? Why is this system after me? It's because your very same friend reported you to the system. So these politicians have turned our people. Some are remain on the plantation, and some get to become house slaves. And the house slaves behave the same way they used to behave in the days of slavery. They behave as if the house belongs to them. You understand what I'm saying? They belong as if the house belongs to them. So they come. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, master. Don't you see what John Brown was doing yesterday? Don't you see what John Brown was doing yesterday? Yeah, yes, yes, yes. And so they behave as if they are a field slave. But they are actually a house slave, that is. They become a house slave. And so, master, our house is on fire. Same thing as if we're back on plantation days. Do not defend politicians. Do not defend politicians. You can go and vote. I advise people to vote all the time if they wish to vote. Some people are not voting because all politicians are the same. That's what they say. And based on their level of behavior that they've shown us over the years, many of us have come to that position that they're all the same, no matter what they say in their position. But I tell people it's your right to vote. And once you want to vote, you should go and vote according to the Constitution. Nobody can stop you. Right? But do not defend politicians and their actions. Let politicians defend themselves. It's time for us to wake up out of the slumber and the sleep. And nothing is wrong if you speak about what governments are doing to you. Nothing is wrong with it. I get back to the letter that Gonzalez wrote many years ago. Here's what he said. Attempts are being made to use the law to silence or perhaps emasculate newspaper correspondents who say uncomfortable truths. And he says, emphasis, mine. Because he used to write back then. So you see what he says here? Attempts are being made to use the law to silence or perhaps emasculate newspaper correspondents who say uncomfortable truths. Do you realize today that if you write things about governments, they either want an apology or they want to sue you, even though the thing is true? I have no problem if you defame somebody according to law. If you defame somebody, right? Do you understand what I'm saying? If you defame somebody and say that somebody killed somebody, somebody raped somebody, somebody's a pedophile and you can't prove it, that's a defamation and they have all right to take you to the courts. But when you write something about a government, what they're doing to a population, and it is a fact, and you prove it via your information in the newspaper, do you realize that they still go after you? Do you realize that you become an enemy of the state? So the same thing he's telling us today, you realize it's happening today. Writs are being used to attempt to gag commentators. So you get letters coming out from people, from the same governments, to gag commentators on radio. So you say something, next week you say, I want an apology, I'll sue you. You ever heard about that in Barbados? You ever heard about that in Grenada? Huh? Talk to me. Have you ever heard about these things anywhere in any of the islands that you're living in? People on radio, they say something about a government, and the next week you either say, I want an apology or I want to sue you. Have you ever heard about it? It's happening today. It's happening today. The letter says, to be sure, the law of the land must be obeyed, but one senses that attempts are being made to manipulate the law for less than desirable ends. These politicians, I tell you, be careful with these politicians, especially when they are lawyers. The letter went on to say, democracy is hardly ever subverted into one fell swoop. Dictatorship tends to be of a creeping kind. You hear that? Democracy is hardly ever subverted in one fell swoop. You know what that means? You know what that means? It means that your democracy is not being taken away just like that, you know. It's piece by piece, because if you take away many institutions from people that they're not democratic, they will push back very hard one time. Right? You understand what I'm saying to you? So they take away piece by piece. In St. Vincent, there's something that we call pace. I'm not sure if it is actually in other Caribbean islands in their constitutions, especially when it comes to the law courts and for people to bring cases. I'm not sure if it's in Barbados as well. But PACE is the Police and Criminal Evidence Act. What does it do? It stands for the police criminal. In the UK, because most of us got our constitution from the UK, it's a law that regulates police powers and protects the public rights. It governs how police can search people, premises, arrest and detain them, and handle exhibits, right? Do you know that in St. Vincent, that was basically thrown off the books and rewritten to mean that if you now want to bring a case against somebody, you have to get the DPP's permission to do it? Huh? I don't know if it happened in other Caribbean islands. We got to wake up. And that's why I said to you, democracy is never taken away overnight. It's never taken away overnight. It's piece by piece. And then one day you wake up and you realize you're living in a dictatorship. Because dictatorship is one of a creeping kind. And we must resist all dictatorship, be it political, legal, military, or whatever else. Silence means consent. Does not apply here. Silence here shows fear. Fear that if they speak out, they will be victimized or even suffer a worse fate. You hear me? Please, wake up. Wake up, people. Wake up. And Pedro says they use the term send you a letter. Yes, it's happening all over. It's happening all over. Everywhere you turn, it's happening. I beg of you all, wake up. Do not allow politicians to have you fighting your neighbor. Do not succumb to their evil, tyrannical behavior. Say what you must in a respectful manner. Protest if you must in a peaceful manner according to the Constitution. Let your voices be heard. Sometimes you have to say what you have to say. Sometimes you may suffer for it. With all sufferings, it means that some generation to come is going to benefit from it. I take a chance to say what I have to say because I could suffer for it. The others will take a chance to say what they have to say because they too can suffer for it. But as always, someone has to speak up. You hear me? Someone has to speak up. Because, like in Hitler's days, no one wanted to speak up. No one. And I'm going to give you this poem. It's called First They Came. I don't know if you ever heard it. It says, First they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me. What do you think about that? Huh? What do you think about that? You want me to go over it for you again? Let me go over it for you. It was a poem by Pastor Martin Niemöller. It says, First, they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and then there was no one left to speak out for me. The same could be applied to all of us here now in the Caribbean, living in these islands among these tyrannical people. One day they will come for you. But guess what? There'll be no one left to speak out for you because everyone else would have already gone. That's how it is when people stay silent. Well, the lines are open for you. I'm going to allow you to call if you wish to call in. I'm sure there's something that you would have learned, and you may want to say something to me. You may want to speak to me. The line is there for you. You can call either direct or you can call via WhatsApp. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear what you think. What are your thoughts? What are happening in other Caribbean islands that's affecting you? Speak up. Let's have a conversation. It's not just about me. It's not a one-way road. It's a two-way street. And all of us learn from each other from time to time. And that is why I created this community, for us to speak up. It's Caribbean time. It's Caribbean update. There's a number on the screen. You can call that number. Add it to your WhatsApp. Call it. Let me hear from you. Let us speak about the issues that are affecting us. It could be any issue. It could be a matter of health. It could be a matter of agriculture. It could be a matter of politics. Whatever it is, I'm sure that you have some burden that you want to unburden, as the people would say. And here is a free medium for you to speak. No one is going to cut you off. No one is going to tell you have 2 minutes to wrap up. Call and speak your mind. If not, as always, I will give way and allow you to go back to what you were doing, because I leave you with the poem. If no one is calling, always remember this poem. When I give you a chance to speak, always remember this poem. And you don't speak up, always remember this poem. First, they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialists. I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. I give you a chance. You may wish not to speak, but always remember that poem, because someday you would want to speak, but then you would not have a voice. I always say to people, whatever's on your chest, whatever's in your stomach, my aunt used to always say, never allow it to burn you. Never allow urine to gather in your bladder to the point that it burns you. You will get sick. She used to say that. Speak your mind. Arlene Charles says hand, foot, and mouth disease has reached Trinidad and Tobago. Says hand, foot, and mouth disease has reached Trinidad and Tobago, according to Arlene Charles. Pedro says they use the term send you a letter. Mr. Wright says that's correct. It's in today's world, trust no one. Keep your eye open. Say good morning, good afternoon to Jody Ann. Let me say hello to Mona Lisa and all those who joined in the chat today. Bakery House, Emergency Prep Paradise, Hillary Joseph, Glenn, Outday, John Paul Wilson, Hillary Joseph. I'm happy you guys joined me today. I'll be more happy when you guys decide to start calling and speak your mind. Conversations always have to be a two-way street. And I will leave you with this message out here again. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's always good to speak your mind. And that is why I gave this channel and gave this number here on the screen so that you can call and speak about the things that concern and matter to you. You can call in via the direct line, or you can call via WhatsApp. The number is on the screen there, 784-533-9260. It's there in large numbers. I'm sure you're seeing it. That's the number. Save it in your phone. And whenever the program is on, give me a call. Because I like to interact with people. I used to be on radio programs for 10 years. And this is what I did. Interact with people. Get them to air their views. Don't allow urine to burn your bladder. Don't allow sickness to gather in your mind. Do you know people get mental health problems by not speaking out? Everything is in their mind. And you know what they do? They churn it over and they churn it over in their mind. And then people call what you say a nervous breakdown. The mind must be free of clutter. Things must not be in there churning over and over and over. If you feel sick and you try to diagnose yourself, you may end up dying. You know why? You're not a doctor. So you go to the doctor. You don't churn it over in your mind, because if you try to analyze it in your mind and you're not a doctor, a medical doctor, you get sick. So with other things of life. If there are issues and you wish to speak, speak. Because you keep them in this mind of yours, you will get mental health problems. Believe you me, I have had friends who decided to keep things bottled up. And one day, I would have visited them in the mental asylum. Some of them managed to come back on the road because of prayers, because of certain remedies which they got. And they came back. It's a dangerous thing to keep things bottled up in your mind. And many of you, by listening and watching this program, means that you have issues in your country. Means that you have things that are going on you wish to speak about. And this is a free medium for you to speak. The number is on the screen. Keep it in your phone. Afro-Grenadian Ambassador. The number is 784-533-9260. That's the number on the screen there. You could call direct or you could call via WhatsApp. I'm sure that Afro Ambassador has something that he probably wants to say. And you can call in that number now. I will give you a chance to do so. I will take your call. Once you decide that you want to call in, I will take your call. And many others who wish to speak, stop being afraid. I give you the chance to do so. Too many things are happening out here. Too many things are happening in our countries, and we are afraid to speak. And this channel is all about speaking many different things. It's not one thing that you can speak here. Many, many different things you can talk about. But let's take a call. Hello, good morning. Good afternoon, actually.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I am all right, man. Go right ahead.
Right. Well, I'm calling in response to the program that I'm listening to. Are you still live?
I'm still live. I'm still live. Still live.
Oh. Well, yes. I'm calling from Grenada. This is I have a channel on my own, Afro Grenadian
Afro-Grenadian.
Ambassador, and
Yes.
yeah, Afro Grenadian Ambassador.
Yes.
And I think you and I we focus on the same aspect of things when it comes to the Black diaspora, the affairs of the Caribbean. Well, I focus mainly on Pan-Africanism and stuff. But I just wanted to say, you know, you said it all. You talk truth. You know, I don't know if it can be said better than that, because, my dear brother, I love how you address the political spectrum of things and helping us to understand that when we pick sides and we follow these politicians, we are only carrying out the agenda of the white colonizers, or the colonizers, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Because
correct.
there's a level of hypocrisy that is going on in the Caribbean. And when I say the Caribbean, I generalize the Caribbean, from Greater Antilles to the Lesser Antilles, the
Correct.
bigger islands to the smaller islands. And I think that's one of the reasons why we cannot progress as a people and a region, because we fail to see that, these politicians are only carrying out the agenda of the colonial masters. Just give me a minute, please.
Sure. Absolutely correct. All right. So we're waiting on that caller.
Yes, sorry about that.
Go ahead.
I had the background. I had something. I had to quiet the
No
background.
problem.
Yes. So, and I just want to, those of us who are listening, you know, let us take heed of what our brother have just said. Because there are those of us, and when I speak about a level of hip hop, I mean, there's so much I want to say, but I want to simplify it as much as I can.
Mhm.
When we talk about unity, we have, we love to preach the gospel of unity.
Oh, yeah.
Unity. It's time for Africans to unite. It's time for Caribbeans to unite. It's time for Black people to unite. But yet and for all, the same. I have been on this YouTube platform for quite a while, and I see it all.
Mhm.
And I see people who preach that unity is being hypocritical, and they are the same people
Mhm.
who are picking sides when it comes to politicians
Yeah, boy.
and bringing division among ourselves. The world is already divided,
Oh, yeah.
and one of the things that I think one of the things I say that have caused us to be divided is politics
Mhm.
and religion. These
Uh-huh.
two things,
Yep.
I always say on my platform, I have waged war upon. I have waged war upon politics
Mhm.
and religion. I will not pick sides. I do not receive anything from any one of them,
Yes.
and I will speak freely, without restrictions,
Yep.
because there is a bigger fish to fry. According to how this world is, you see how things are going now.
Mhm.
There's a beast system
Oh, yeah.
that is rising up.
Mhm.
A beast system is rising up in America, not just America. Yes, America, we see what's going on, but not just America,
Well, that's a
rising up in the Caribbean nation.
that's a catalyst for it, right there.
Exactly,
That's a catalyst for it, right
exactly,
there.
exactly. And if we are not careful, Black people, my brothers and sisters, you who are listening, wherever you are listening from, if we are not careful, this beast system will get into our homes, into places where we care for the most, and it will cause destruction. We have to wise up, my Black brothers and sisters, and stop the division. Stop the, I hate to see when we promoting this thing called island wars, and this island don't like this island, and that's nonsense. That's nonsense. We need to stop making the job of those colonizers easy. It's what we have been colonized for over what we say 400 years. It's more than that now,
More than that, yeah.
right? It's more than that now, and we are still in the same position that we are in.
I
Come on, guys. We need we need to cease
I
from this mentality that we
oh,
are
yeah.
in,
Yes.
this pattern that we are in,
Mhm.
because if we don't break that mentality, it starts by breaking that
Yeah.
mentality.
Yep.
And if we don't break that mentality, we cannot think about Africa uniting with the Caribbean and Caribbean coming as one, and this unity gospel. Is best we just hush remote and don't say anything. Don't
Absolutely.
even preach that.
Absolutely.
You know.
I agree with
So
you.
my brother, I mean, there's a lot to be said, but I appreciate your program. So continue to do what you are doing, and you have my full support. All right, take care.
Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it. All right. So that's our good brother out of Grenada. We really thank him for calling in. Like I said, the lines are open. You can call at any time. I want to give that brother an example of something. Somebody else was calling me. I think it's from St. Lucia. You can call again. And any country you wish to call from, you can call. Numbers on the screen right there. That's the number right there to call. Listen, he couldn't say it better. Right here in St. Vincent, I'll give you an example in St. Vincent. It's a good friend of mine. He decided to, let me take the call first. Good afternoon, caller. Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir.
Yes, good afternoon to you.
Yeah, I just happened to stumble on your show for the first time. I don't know if you have been there for a while. I just happened to see you. and I found your
Okay.
discourse was very interesting. So much so I listened to the end. Well, not to the end because we are still on.
Yeah, we're still on live. We're
And
still on.
some of the yes, some of the things you said, it's so much reflects what happens in St. Lucia, and it happens across the Caribbean islands.
Hmm.
And when you refer to politicians and the way they use the power
Oh yeah.
to intimidate vulnerable persons, this cannot be more true than this. And I want to give you one example that happened in St. Lucia, where we had a few elderly persons, and there's a few more persons, they were protesting against this this along these outstanding issues of St. Jude Hospital that has not been opened, and they were protesting about opening the hospital because we have been in a stadium for a while. And I think it was somewhat embarrassing the government, and they felt it was necessary to dispatch SSU fully armed
Wow.
to intimidate the few elderly persons and a few other persons there, about 10
Hmm.
to 15 persons, to intimidate them,
Wow.
heavily armed.
Wow.
And let me tell you, it was not before long they left the place and never returned. Now I
Wow.
do believe this program that you're airing, I think it's very empowering, educational. I really think you should continue because you are going to get more callers as your show continues to go on, because it really resonates with us that what happens over in Grenada,
Hmm.
in St. Vincent, happens in St. Lucia. I remember once we were also having this protest against the government was sorry negotiations.
Uh-huh.
And same thing, they had the SSU personnel armed, heavily armed, and circling our place. They didn't say anything to us, but just intimidating by just being there with their firearms.
It's an
And I suspect the
intimidation.
union
It's an
leaders,
intimidation.
say that
Yeah.
again, sir?
It's an intimidation. Yeah.
And I suspect the union leaders were involved with the government because this union, they actually supported the government of the day.
Wow.
And I do believe what you say could not be more encouraging to those of us who probably take politicians for granted that they care about us. I think they care about themselves, and if you play around with them, they use the system
Mm-hmm.
to intimidate and to silence. And I do appreciate your program. I will continue listening to your program. I think it was necessary. That for some reason I wanted to see that Grenadiers and Vincent and the other island, they're no different from St. Lucia because there's all a mindset that politicians believe they have the right to be in office. And if anybody would unnerve them, then they get at you in a very powerful way that you, or somehow, you must keep quiet.
But
I thank you for that opportunity. And
let me tell you something about. Let me give you an example of how I want my people in the Caribbean about our new colonizers. They're right here. They're the prime ministers and the presidents, right? And the reason
Mhm.
why I say that to them is because I give them an example. One time I was talking to a group of students. I said, look at it, right in St. Vincent. There was a European Union. They had given money to, I think it was the four Windward Islands to upgrade their tourism products. I can't remember which
Mm.
exactly. But the money was to be used for things like upgrading a new website for the tourism department to do ads and stuff like that for to get the island out there. And I think the EU had some money they probably wanted to throw away, so they were just giving away money, right? And
Mhm.
a young man who did videography. He's a very, very good. He didn't go to study it, but people recognize him as a very, very good young man in that field. And a lot of companies give him jobs to do ads for them and stuff like that. The young man applied to the
Mm.
ministry to get the job. The job was valued at around, I think it was about 60, $80,000, whatever EC, whatever it is. The young man applied, they turned him down. He put in a bid for $30,000. A local guy put in a bid for 30,000. They turned him down. They end up giving that contract to a St. Lucian company for about probably 60 or 80. The St. Lucian
Mm.
company turned around and hired the same young man in St. Vincent because they knew him.
Wow.
So they end up getting the same 30,000 he applied for. And the day when they were launching the ad, the young man came there because the company in St. Lucia told him he have to come. And he came, then he sat there. And when the gentleman from St. Lucia was speaking, he said, and we have to thank this young videographer who was really good. I mean, he's excellent. And we have to give him
Mm.
thanks for producing this ad. And he told the guy to stand up. The people they almost got a heart attack.
Mm.
This even with, I mean, and there are many examples of that where they would have gone outside instead of helping their own people inside.
Mm.
Look, I tell you something, brother. When you look at what is
Mm.
happening, you wonder, you really wonder if our people, if they had, if they really recognize that these leaders, these politicians are our new colonizers. I wonder, because I hear them say, "Oh, we don't want to be colonized again," but I wonder if they really recognize these are the new colonizers.
Well, let me tell you, I do not want to go too far into that. I'm not a history man.
But
I
anyway, that's a
suspect you
different.
already are into
Yeah, well,
history.
yeah, well,
I can't go too deep into it, but it's a mindset that we believe that something out there is always better than ours.
yeah, well.
So this
You're
is
right.
exactly what it is. That if it is local, it is not good. So we have to go out, and outside will now engage our local, and sometimes for minimal a minimal amount, and they go out with the chunk of the monies. As I am on, and I really wish to release your line, sir. I
Yeah,
have a
man, no
little
problem.
assignment to do. Since I suspect you're
Mhm.
Caribbean man, I don't know who you are. I don't know where you're coming from. I don't know where your show is from. If you care to tell me now,
Well,
that
well,
would be
actually,
fine.
actually, I am from Saint Vincent, but I don't be in Saint Vincent all the time.
I mean, where is your show?
Oh,
The location of your show? Is
you
it
mean right now?
Dominica, Grenada?
No,
I mean, where do you?
sometimes I'm in
Well, I'm
Saint
not.
Vincent.
I want to know if it's as a Grenada show, a
No, no,
Trinidadian
no, no,
show,
no, no,
or
no. It's a newspaper out of Saint Vincent. Sometimes I'm in Saint Vincent.
okay,
Sometimes I'm
okay,
overseas. I'm
excellent, St. Vincent.
not
So I want to
always,
give you,
not always here. Not always in Saint Vincent. No.
before I
Yeah.
step out, I want to give you a small assignment.
Mhm.
It will be helpful probably to your show. I want you to listen to a show that is coming from St. Lucia,
Mhm.
hosted by a St. Lucian politician. The name of the show is "Can I Help You?"
Can I help you? Okay.
I would like you, when you have a chance on a Thursday night, I think at 8 o'clock.
Hmm.
I want you to listen to that show at least once.
Yes.
And if you feel so desired, so you could do that second or third time, and let me know what is your impression about a politician
Hmm.
who is a lawyer hosting a show, and just give me your feedback. You can give it on the air, the contents of the show, what your views are. Thank you
Yeah.
very much,
I
sir. I
hope
want to wish you a good day.
I hope you're not talking about my good friend.
You talking about your good friend? You want to say his
It
name?
can't be Frederick you're talking about.
I want you to listen to that
I
show.
listen. I listen. I
Is
will
he?
listen. I will listen. I will listen. I will listen. I
I
will listen.
hope he's not one of those influencing you.
No, no, no. I tell you what. I have been around politicians. I know them.
Mm.
And when I say being around them, I've had the chance to sit at their table, listen to them.
Yeah.
I've never been a politician, but I've had the chance to be on a, a spectrum of opposition, government. I've sit at
So
tables with.
you know some of them.
I
You would
know
say in essence you know
I
a
know
few of them.
many of them here and in the region and abroad. Many of them.
Okay,
So
that
I have had a chance
so
to
you'd have.
understand how they think, and I know what exactly they are all about.
I want to thank you. So since you said you
But
know
I
the
will listen. But I
gentleman,
will
I have
listen.
not
But I
put
will
you
listen to
under
the program.
pressure.
I will listen to the program still. I will listen still.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Have
Thanks
a
for
good
telling
day.
me.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Cool. 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 All right. So that's our good friend from Saint Lucia calling there. I'm not sure if there's anyone else who wish to call at this time. If you do, I'm leaving the lines open for you. I think that I don't know if anybody else wish to call. If anybody else wish to call at this time, I'm gonna leave the lines open for you. Um, yeah. Okay. So the number to call is 784-533-9260. And we're gonna close the lines in a while because it's almost an hour, and I guess many of you may have to head back to work. That's why I decided to do it in the midday hour. Then you would have gotten some time to listen, and maybe if you wanted to call and say something. I haven't heard from my friends in Barbados. I haven't heard from my friends in Trinidad. I know many of them are online. My friends in Dominica, I see about two, three, four of them there. I haven't heard from them either. I know there are many things going on there, but this is a Caribbean program. It's a program that is open to everyone in the Caribbean. And whichever country you're calling from, whichever issues, it may not be the issues that I am speaking about, it may be an issue within your country, you can call as well. All right. But I chose to do it the midday hour because I know many of you would have come around and listen. All right. But if there's no one else calling, I want to thank you guys for joining the program today. I want to thank you for making your contributions. My good friend out of Grenada and St. Lucia, Grenadian ambassador there, Afro Grenadian ambassador. He has a channel there. You can check it out, Afro Grenadian ambassador. And I want to thank you guys for really listening and making your points, just remember what I said to you. Remember what I said to you. When you don't wish to speak, remember, first they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not what? A socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because what? I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was what? Not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me. I just want to leave you with that. And maybe I'll always begin a show like this with that and end it with it so that you will get to the point where you speak and don't be afraid. Speak on matters. You can be truthful. You can have your say without defaming anyone and without criticizing anyone. You can have your say. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel so that you will know when we go live and when we produce new content. So, good afternoon to all online. From the FOSH, I yet to pronounce that. Um, Bomate, I think I see Pedro there, and I think I big up a lot of other people before. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in today. Have a good day and have a great weekend as well. I understand Barbados is in a big mess. I see a Barbadian politician mentioning something. I think, where is it? Where is it? The visa issue. Listen to this. Listen to this one.
The Secretary of State of the United States of America served notice on all of us that those of us who have relationships with the medical practitioners, whether it be nurses or doctors, whoever in Cuba, and are going to have them working in your country, will no longer be able to have access to U.S. visas. That is the climate within which we now function. And so therefore it is vitally important that as triangle holes are applied on areas and to countries with whom we have been able to build partnerships, that we ensure we have a menu of options.
That's right. A menu of options. And for those of you who wish to visit Babylon, US, I think on Saturday night we'll have a discussion about all these problems that you will face now to visit Babylon, US. Have a good night.